All my life, my family had one clear message for me: you'll never be enough. Not smart enough, not pretty enough, not ambitious enough. My mother adored my older brother, Daniel, who went into law, like my father. My sister Claire was the golden child, always praised for her polished looks and her perfect marriage. Me, I was the afterthought. The one who wasted time doodling, the one who settled for an entry-level job after college, the one who never quite fit the family mold. At every family dinner, someone would bring up the company they worshipped, Harper & Cole Industries, a massive firm in our city. My father practically bowed every time its name was mentioned, talking about their billion-dollar contracts, their visionary leadership. To him, success looked like wearing the Harper & Cole badge. Meanwhile, when it came to me, the conversations were brutal. "You should have married better. Maybe then you'd be living in a real house," Claire once said. "You're just not cut out for leadership, darling." "Some people aren't," my mother added, sipping her wine. I'd sit there, smiling politely, hiding the truth that was burning in my chest. Because what they didn't know, what I hadn't told a single soul, was that I did work for Harper & Cole. In fact, I had built my way up quietly, strategically, until a twist of fate put me in a position none of them could imagine. The day I walked into that family dinner as the new owner of the company they worshipped, I knew the balance of power was about to shift forever. But to understand how I got there, I need take you back to the moment everything changed. It all started the night of my 25th birthday. I was sitting at the long mahogany dining table in my parents' house, surrounded by relatives who treated me like a charity case. Claire gave me a scented candle. "For your tiny apartment," she said with a smirk. My father handed me a book titled How to Build Confidence and Influence People. I laughed politely, but inside I burned. Then Daniel raised his glass. "To our sister, who, well, she's still figuring it out," he said, chuckling as everyone clapped. That was the moment I decided I would never sit at that table being pitted again. I quit my mediocre admin job 2 weeks later. It shocked everyone. My mother called me irresponsible, my father said I was throwing away stability, and Claire whispered that she hoped I'd find a nice man to rescue me. Instead, I found Harper & Cole. I applied for an entry-level analyst role, something no one thought I could do. But I had one thing they didn't expect: grit. I worked twice as hard, stayed late, asked questions no one else dared to ask. Within months, my manager trusted me with projects far above my pay grade. And then came the curveball. Mr. Cole himself noticed me. He had this sharp way of seeing people, not for who they were, but for who they could become. He started calling me into private meetings, asking for my input. At first, I thought I was in trouble. But then he said something that would change my life forever. "You remind me of myself when I started. Invisible to everyone, until I wasn't. Don't waste that fire." I didn't. What no one in my family knew was that from that day on, I stopped being the background character in my own life. I was slowly stepping onto a stage, much bigger than any of them could imagine. And fate was about to hand me the most unexpected weapon of all. 6 months later, everything turned upside down. Mr. Cole called me into his office, a room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. My hands trembled as I sat down. He didn't waste time. "I'm retiring," he said, leaning back in his chair. "And I don't trust my partners to run this place the way it should be run." I blinked, unsure why he was telling me this. I was still just an ambitious analyst, wasn't I? But then he slid a folder across the desk. Inside was paperwork I could barely comprehend. "I've been looking for someone to carry the company's vision forward," he said. "Someone underestimated, someone hungry. That's you." I stammered. "But sir, I don't have the money. I don't even own a house." Mr. Cole chuckled. "You think I need your money? I need your fight. I'm selling the controlling shares to you at a fraction of their value. Consider it an investment in the kind of leader this company deserves." My world tilted. One day, I was the failure of the family. The next, I was on my way to owning the empire they worshipped. Of course, I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I signed the papers quietly. I started working side by side with Mr. Cole, learning the ropes. I stayed late into the night studying financials, mergers, contracts. My friends stopped inviting me out, but I didn't care. Every late night felt like sharpening a sword I'd use one day. And then the moment arrived. 6 months after Mr. Cole retired, Harper & Cole announced a gala for their new leadership. The press release didn't name me. It simply teased a fresh face who would carry the legacy forward. My family, of course, worshipped the announcement. At dinner, my father went on and on. Imagine being part of that company. That's real success. Unlike, well, certain hobbies. They all laughed. I smiled, sipping my wine, knowing something they didn't. Because at that gala, the truth would come out, and my family would have no idea what was about to hit them. The night of the gala is etched into my memory like a movie scene. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers, tables dressed in white linen, and the city's elite buzzing with curiosity about the mysterious new owner. Reporters huddled near the stage, their cameras flashing at every executive who walked by. And then my family arrived. I had insisted weeks earlier that they come as my guests. They didn't question it much, probably assuming I had managed to snag an invitation through some pity connection. I could hear my sister Claire's voice from across the room, dripping with her usual disdain. Wow, this place is stunning. Hard to imagine our little dreamer cousin getting us in here. Maybe she finally dated someone useful. I stayed hidden among the executives, watching them settle at their table near the front. My father was practically glowing, tugging on his tie, whispering about how this was the pinnacle of success. My mother sat stiffly, clearly rehearsing all the compliments she planned to drop on anyone important enough to matter. The program began with music and speeches. Finally, the announcer's voice echoed. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new majority owner of Harper & Cole Industries. There was a pause. A ripple of anticipation swept across the room. And then my name was spoken. Silence. Utter silence. I rose from my seat near the board members and walked toward the stage. Every step clicked against the marble floor. Heads turned, whispers broke out, and then I saw them, my family, mouths open, eyes wide, as if the universe had played a cruel joke on them. Claire actually gasped, clutching Roberto's arm. My father's jaw tightened, his wine glass frozen midair. My mother blinked rapidly, as if she had seen a ghost. I took the stage, the microphone warm in my hand. Good evening, I began, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. My journey here has been unconventional. Many people doubted me. Many people said I wasn't enough. Tonight, I stand here not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. Applause thundered, but I barely heard it. All I could focus on was the look on my father's face, pride tangled with humiliation, as though his entire hierarchy of power had been upended in a single breath. When I stepped down from the stage, reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed, hands reached, questions fired. And behind them, my family struggled to process what had just happened. Claire was the first to break. She stormed toward me, her heels clacking sharply. This is a joke, right? You? Owning this? Did you marry someone powerful? I looked her dead in the eye and smiled. No, Claire. I am someone powerful. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. My father finally approached, his voice low and strained. You humiliated us. You kept this from your own family. I leaned in, so close he could see the fire in my eyes. Family doesn't support me, Dad. They tear me down. So no, I didn't keep this from my family. I kept it from my critics. For the first time in my life, he had no response. That night, as I stood in the center of the room, celebrated by strangers but seen clearly for the first time, I realized something profound. It wasn't just about proving them wrong anymore. It was about reclaiming my place, not at their table, but at a table I built myself. And that was only the beginning of the reckoning. The gala was only the spark. The fire came after. The next morning, I woke up to headlines plastered across every business site. Harper & Cole's new owner shocks industry, an unlikely successor. My photo in a black evening gown, walking across the stage with cameras flashing, was everywhere. I didn't even have time to sip my coffee before my phone started buzzing with calls from old classmates, forgotten acquaintances, and yes, my family. Claire called first. I let it ring out. Then my mother, then my father. By noon, I had 20 missed calls and a string of texts that went from confused to demanding. My father's final message made me laugh bitterly. We need to talk. This concerns the family's reputation. The irony almost hurt. Suddenly, I was worthy of discussion, because now I was the one holding the power they worshipped. At the office, my new assistant handed me a list of congratulations from CEOs, politicians, even a senator. But when I walked into the boardroom for my first official meeting, I saw him, my father, waiting outside the glass walls. His presence was like a shadow I thought I'd escaped. He tried to play it cool when I stepped out. "Congratulations," he said, the word sour in his mouth. "I must admit you surprised me." "I've been surprising you my whole life," I replied calmly. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Now that you're in this position, you'll need guidance. This company is far too big for someone inexperienced. Your family could help you. Daniel could be brought in as legal counsel. Claire could." I cut him off. "Stop. You spent years telling me I wasn't enough, that I wasn't capable of anything. Now you want to cash in because I own the one thing you've always worshipped." His face darkened. "This isn't just about you. You'll ruin yourself without us." I smiled, a smile that felt sharper than any blade. "I built this without you, and I'll thrive without you." I walked back into the boardroom, leaving him standing there like an unwanted guest at a party. For the first time, I didn't feel like the powerless child being scolded. I felt like the one writing the rules. But the harder part wasn't facing my father. It was facing my mother. That evening, she showed up at my apartment unannounced, holding a cake box as if we were suddenly a picture-perfect family. She sat stiffly at my kitchen table, hands folded, eyes searching me. "You should have told me," she whispered finally. "Do you know how it felt to sit there at that gala and hear your name? Like the whole world knew our daughter, while we knew nothing." I stared at her, trying to read whether it was regret or just embarrassment. "You didn't want to know me," I said softly. "You only wanted the version of me that fit your mold." She flinched but said nothing. That silence told me everything. They didn't come to me out of pride. They came out of fear, fear that I no longer needed them. Fear that their hierarchy, their careful illusion of superiority, had shattered. And they were right. Because for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't just enough. I was more than they had ever dared to imagine. But with power came enemies, not just in my family, but inside the company itself. And I was about to learn that proving myself to my family had been the easy part. The boardroom at Harper & Cole was a battlefield dressed in glass and steel. I quickly realized that while my family underestimated me, some of the executives didn't underestimate, they resented. Mr. Cole had warned me before he retired. "Some of them will smile in your face while sharpening knives behind your back," he'd said. At the time, I thought he was exaggerating. I was wrong. On my second week as owner, during a quarterly review, one of the senior partners, Richard Lang, a man in his 60s with a permanent smirk, leaned back in his chair and said loudly enough for the entire room, "With all due respect, we're talking about billions in contracts. Are we sure a young woman with no pedigree can handle this?" The air went cold. A few executives shifted uncomfortably. Others waited, hungry for drama. I smiled, calm but sharp. "Richard," I said, sliding a folder across the table, "this is the renewal contract you failed to close last quarter. I closed it yesterday. At 15% above your original terms." The smirk dropped from his face. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I just let the numbers speak. From that moment, whispers shifted. But the resentment didn't vanish, it grew. Outside of work, my family began circling again, like sharks that smelled blood in the water. Claire showed up at the company lobby one afternoon, pretending she was just in the neighborhood. She made sure to flash her expensive purse and diamond ring as she walked in. "I was thinking," she said, sipping the complimentary lobby coffee as if she owned the place. "Since you're running such a big operation, you'll need someone polished to represent the family image. I could host galas, fundraisers." I interrupted. "Claire, this isn't a beauty pageant. We're running a corporation." Her face flushed, the smile cracking for the first time. "So you're really going to shut us out? After everything?" "After everything," I repeated. She left without finishing her coffee. But I knew this was just the beginning. My family had spent years dismissing me. Now that I had the power, they weren't going to disappear quietly. The next blow came from my brother Daniel. And unlike Claire's shallow attempt to latch on, his move was calculated, ruthless. One morning, my assistant stormed into my office, pale. "You need to see this," she said, placing a newspaper on my desk. The headline made my stomach tighten. New Harper & Cole owner under legal review. Sources point to mismanagement. And right beneath it, quoted as a concerned legal expert, was my brother Daniel's name. He had declared war. The article spread like wildfire. Overnight, clients called my office, cautious and wary. Reporters camped outside the building, thrusting microphones in my face. Are you under investigation? Is it true you bought the company through favoritism? Do you have the experience to run Harper & Cole? And there, hidden between the lines of slander, was my brother's fingerprint. Daniel had used his legal contacts to feed the press a narrative. I was reckless, unqualified, and about to sink the company. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. But I did feel the sting, the same sting I had felt as a teenager when he used to mock my silly dreams in front of our parents. Only now the stakes were higher. That evening, I called an emergency meeting with the board. Some looked at me with pity, others with thinly veiled glee, as though waiting for me to crumble. I stood tall. Yes, you've all seen the headlines. Yes, my own brother is leading the smear campaign. But here's what he doesn't know. I clicked the remote, and the projector lit up with charts, contracts, and profit margins. In past 3 months, Harper & Cole has closed deals worth $80 million more than forecast. Client retention is at a record high. And contrary to these so-called accusations, every audit has come back spotless. Numbers don't lie. Family does. There was a murmur, then silence. Even Richard Lang, my biggest skeptic, leaned forward as if reassessing me. After the meeting, my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. Enjoy the spotlight while it lasts. You'll trip eventually. I stared at it for a long moment, then typed back. I've been tripping all my life. The difference is, I learned how to run while falling. The next family dinner was inevitable. My mother insisted, pretending nothing had happened. We're still a family, she said, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. That night, I walked into the dining room where they were all seated, Daniel smug, Claire pouting, my father looking ready to lecture. The same table where I'd once been the invisible one. Except this time, they were the ones scrambling for approval. Claire tried first. You know, maybe I could. No, I said before she could finish. Daniel smirked. You think you're untouchable. One bad move, and you'll be nothing again. I leaned back, smiling faintly. Funny. That's exactly what you used to say when I was a kid. Yet here we are, me running the company you worship, and you running your mouth. For the first time, Daniel's smile cracked. But I knew this battle wasn't just about family pride anymore. It was about survival, in business, in reputation, in the legacy I was now building with my own hands. And I wasn't about to let them take it from me. The scandal my brother tried to spark could have destroyed me if I hadn't turned it into fuel. The morning after that tense family dinner, I called a press conference. The board thought I was insane. Don't feed the story, Richard Lang warned, wagging his finger. But I knew hiding would make me look guilty. When the cameras clicked and the microphones crowded in, I didn't flinch. My family has doubted me all my life, I began, my voice steady. So it's no surprise that doubt has followed me here. But let me be clear, Harper & Cole is stronger than ever. Numbers don't lie, and neither do I. The only mismanagement you'll find is in the hands of people who can't stand to see me succeed. Then I dropped the bombshell. To prove our integrity, I've ordered a full independent audit. Transparent. Public. Every dollar accounted for. The reporters erupted with questions, but I walked away before they could twist my words. Control, that was the key. Within weeks, the audit results came back spotless. Not only spotless, but glowing. Under my leadership, the company was leaner, more efficient, and more profitable. Headlines flipped overnight. New owner proves herself with record growth. Doubters silenced as Harper & Cole flourishes. And my brother? He vanished from a news cycle, like smoke in the wind. But the victory wasn't just professional, it was personal. At the next quarterly gala, clients mingled with executives, praising the company's fresh energy. My family, of course, showed up again, dressed like royalty, trying to act as though they'd always believed in me. Claire raised her glass at one point. We always knew she had potential, she said loudly, making sure people heard. I leaned over, my smile polite but razor-sharp. No, Claire, you didn't. She flushed, caught in her own lie. Later that night, I stood by the balcony overlooking the city, a glass of champagne in hand. My father approached, his pride swallowed but his tone still commanding. "You've made your point," he said, "but you don't have to cut us out. We're family. We should be part of this." I turned to him slowly. "You had your chance to be part of my life. You chose arrogance instead. This." I gestured to the skyline, to the buzzing gala behind me. "This I built without you, and it will stay that way." For the first time, my father didn't argue. He just looked at me, realizing the truth. The power dynamic had shifted forever. I wasn't their shadow anymore. I was the storm they never saw coming. And deep down I knew the reckoning wasn't finished yet. The final strike came when I least expected it. It was a Tuesday morning, just another day packed with meetings, when my assistant rushed into my office, pale. "Your family is here," she whispered. "Not in the lobby. In the boardroom." I froze. I hadn't invited them, and security should have never let them through. But when I entered the boardroom, there they were, my father, my mother, Claire, and Daniel, sitting smugly at the polished table, as if they belonged. Daniel stood up first, ever the performer. "We've been talking," he began smoothly, "and we think it's time for the company to have stronger guidance. A family council, so to speak. You could stay as the face, of course, but decisions this big require maturity." Claire chimed in, eyes glittering. "You've done well, but everyone knows legacies are about families. You don't want to risk being alone, do you?" My father leaned back, voice dripping with finality. "This company was built on reputation. Your reputation is fragile. Ours can protect you. It's time you stopped pretending you don't need us." For a second, I almost laughed. They weren't just trying to worm their way in. They were staging a takeover under the guise of family. I let the silence stretch until Daniel smirked, thinking he'd cornered me. Then I dropped the folder I'd been holding onto the table. It was thick. Labeled, Harper & Cole, Ownership and Governance Structure. "Interesting timing," I said calmly. "Because just this morning, the board approved a restructuring. Effective immediately, all voting rights consolidate under the majority owner. Which, if you've forgotten, is me." Daniel's smirk faltered. My father's face turned crimson. Claire sputtered something about blood ties. I stood taller, my voice cutting through the room. "You spent years convincing me I wasn't enough. You laughed when I struggled, mocked when I dreamed, disappeared when I needed support. And now you think you can stroll in here and take what I bled for? No, this is mine. And the doors you used to slam in my face are now locked to you." Security appeared at the doorway. Not my choice, but my assistant's. Still, I didn't stop them. One by one, my family was escorted out, their protests echoing down the hall. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being cast out. They were. I returned to the boardroom table, the silence humming with victory. And yet, beneath the triumph, there was something heavier, a strange calm, almost sorrow. Because the truth was, I hadn't just taken back my power. I had ended the illusion of family altogether. And in that silence, I knew the final chapter of this story was about to be written. The day after I forced my family out of the boardroom, the city felt different. Or maybe it was me. I walked past the mirrored glass of Harper & Cole headquarters, and for the first time, I didn't see the shadow of a girl who'd once begged for scraps of approval. I saw the woman who owned the reflection. The phone calls stopped. The texts ended. My family went silent, licking their wounds. For years, I had imagined that silence as loneliness. Now it was freedom. At the next company event, I stood before hundreds of employees, all waiting for direction. My heart pounded, but not from fear. From clarity. When I took this position, I said, people doubted me. Some still do. But doubt is fuel. And if you've ever been told you're not enough, let this company be the place that proves otherwise. The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was thunderous. Real. For once, I wasn't performing for people who wanted me small. I was leading people who wanted to grow with me. That night, I drove to the old family house. I parked across the street, staring at the glowing windows. Inside, I could see them, my father pacing, Claire fussing with her phone, my mother seated stiffly at the table. The same scene I had lived for decades. But I didn't knock. I didn't step inside. I simply whispered to the empty car. I was never not enough. I was just never yours to define. Then I drove away. The weight I had carried for years, Every insult, every smirk, every dismissal lifted. In its place was something I'd never truly felt before. Not revenge. Not even triumph. Peace. My family said I'd never be enough. But I had built a life, a company, and a future that proved I was more than they could ever imagine. And for the first time, I no longer needed them to see it.